Well, I need to tell you something that might sound counterintuitive. Most people spend their whole lives accumulating things, buying things, building up their stuff. And they think that's what wealth is, having more, owning more. But the funny thing is, as you approach retirement, one of the smartest things you can do is sell. Get rid of things. Now, I'm not talking about your investments. I'm not saying sell your stocks or your retirement accounts. I'm talking about physical things, assets that people think are valuable, but they're actually draining your wealth. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm 94 years old now, and I've watched a lot of people retire over the years. And I've noticed something. The ones who retire successfully, who retire happily, they travel light. They're not weighed down by stuff, by maintenance, by things that need constant attention and money. They've simplified. They've let go. And that's what I want to talk about today. 5 things you should seriously consider selling before you retire. Not because you have to, but because it might be the smartest financial move you ever make. So let me walk you through this, one by one, and I'll tell you why. The first thing you should consider selling, and this is going to upset some people, your house. Now wait, before you turn this off, just hear me out. I know your house is special. It's where you raised your kids. It's full of memories. It's home. I understand that, I really do. But here's what most people don't consider. That big family home you needed when you had kids, you don't need it anymore. The kids are gone. You're rattling around in all that space, and it's costing you a fortune. Property taxes, maintenance, utilities, insurance, repairs. A 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house, that can cost you $20,000, $30,000, even $50,000 a year just to maintain. And for what? So you can have 3 bedrooms nobody sleeps in? See, here's the thing about retirement. Your income goes down, usually significantly. So you need to reduce your expenses, and your house is probably your biggest expense. Now, I'm not saying move into a tiny apartment if that makes you miserable, but downsizing can free up enormous amounts of cash. Let's say you've got a $500,000 house. You sell it. You buy a nice condo or a smaller house for $300,000. That's $200,000 you just freed up. Money you can invest. Money that can generate income in retirement. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that's $8,000 per year in extra retirement income, every year. Plus your ongoing expenses drop. Smaller house means lower taxes, lower utilities, less maintenance. Maybe you save $10,000 or $15,000 a year just in housing costs. So between the freed up capital and the reduced expenses, downsizing your house could be worth $20,000 to $25,000 per year to your retirement. That's huge. That could be the difference between a comfortable retirement and a stressful one. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Warren, I need space for when the grandkids visit. Okay, they visit maybe a few times a year, right? A few weeks total? Is it worth spending $30,000 a year to maintain space for a few weeks of visits? Or could you downsize, save that money, and use some of it to rent a bigger place when everyone visits, or help pay for the grandkids to visit you? When you do the math, it doesn't make sense to keep the big house. Now, I'm not saying everyone should sell. If you're emotionally attached and you can comfortably afford it, fine. But if money's tight, if you're worried about retirement income, selling that big house should be at the top of your list. The second thing you should consider selling, and this one's easier, your extra cars. How many cars do you really need in retirement? One? Maybe two if you're a couple? But I see retirees with 3, 4 cars. A sedan for daily driving, an SUV for trips, a sports car for fun, a truck for, I don't know, just in case. And each one of those cars is costing you money. Insurance, registration, maintenance, depreciation. Even if the cars are paid off, they're not free. They're costing you several $1,000s a year. And here's the thing. In retirement, you're not commuting anymore. You're not driving as much. You don't need all those vehicles. So here's what I do. Keep one reliable car, maybe two if you both drive separately a lot. Sell the rest. Take that money, could be $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, depending on what you're selling, and invest it. And use the money you save on insurance and maintenance, invest that too. Every little bit helps in retirement. Now, I've driven the same car for years, nothing fancy, just reliable transportation. People ask me, Warren, why don't you have a collection of exotic cars? You can afford it. And I say, because I don't need them. A car gets me from point A to point B. That's all it needs to do. Everything beyond that, it's just ego. It's status. It's wasted money. And in retirement, you can't afford to waste money on ego. The third thing to sell, and this one might surprise you, your vacation home. Now I know, the lake house, the ski cabin, the beach condo. It's been in the family for years. The kids love it. You have so many memories there. But here's what I want you to think about. How often do you actually use it? Be honest. Most people use their vacation home maybe 4 to 6 weeks a year, maybe less. And the rest of the time it's sitting empty, but you're still paying for it. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, HOA fees maybe. A vacation home can easily cost you $10,000 to $20,000 a year, sometimes more. So let's do the math. If you use it 6 weeks a year, that's 42 days. You're paying $10,000 to $20,000 for 42 days of use. That's $240 to $480 per day. You could stay in a really nice hotel for that, or rent a vacation home when you want one. And here's the other thing. That vacation home, it's probably worth a lot of money. Money that's locked up, not working for you, not generating income. If you sold it, let's say it's worth $300,000, you could invest that money. At 4%, that's $12,000 per year in investment income. More than enough to rent a vacation home for several weeks a year, anywhere you want. And you don't have to maintain it, you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to pay taxes on it. Plus, you have flexibility. One year you go to the beach, next year you go to the mountains, the year after maybe Europe. You're not stuck going to the same place every year just because you own property there. Now, I understand the emotional attachment. I really do. But in retirement, cash flow is king. And that vacation home, it's eating your cash flow. So consider selling. Take the money, invest it, and rent when you want to vacation. You'll probably end up traveling more, not less. The fourth thing to sell, and this one's important, individual stocks that you're holding for emotional reasons. Now, I love stocks. I've made my fortune in stocks. But I'm talking about something specific here. A lot of people, they inherit stock, or they worked for a company and accumulated stock in that company over the years, and they hold on to it, even though it might not be the best investment, because it was dad's stock, or because they feel loyal to their old employer. But here's the thing. In retirement, you can't afford to be sentimental with your investments. You need diversification. You need safety. You need income. And if you've got 30% or 40% of your portfolio in one single stock, that's risky, very risky. What if that company has problems? What if the industry changes? What if the stock crashes? You could lose a huge chunk of your retirement savings. I've seen this happen. People who worked for Enron, WorldCom, Lehman Brothers. They had most of their net worth in their company stock, and when those companies failed, they lost everything. So here's what you do before you retire. Look at your portfolio. If you've got more than 5% or 10% in any single stock, sell some of it. Diversify. Put it in a broad index fund. Spread the risk. Yes, you might have to pay capital gains taxes, but that's okay. It's worth it for the safety and diversification. And if the stock you're holding isn't a great business, if it's just something you inherited or accumulated out of habit, sell it all. Don't let emotion or loyalty cloud your judgment. Your retirement security is more important than sentimentality. And the fifth thing to sell, this one's a little different. Your business, if you own one. Now, if you're a business owner approaching retirement, you basically have two choices. You can keep running the business, or you can sell it. And a lot of business owners, they can't let go. They built the business. It's their identity. It's their baby. So they keep working well into their 70s, sometimes their 80s. And that's fine if it makes them happy, but a lot of times it doesn't. They're tired, they want to retire, but they feel obligated, or they don't know how to sell. Here's what I've learned. If you want to retire and you own a business, you need to sell it, or at least have a succession plan where someone else takes over and you get paid out over time. Because running a business, it's stressful, it's time-consuming, it never stops. And in retirement, you want less stress, not more. Plus, your business has value, real value. It's probably one of your biggest assets. And if you keep running it until you can't anymore, until health forces you to stop, you might not get good value for it. But if you plan ahead, if you sell when the business is doing well, when you're still energetic and involved, you can get top dollar. And then you take that money, you invest it properly, and it generates income for the rest of your life. That's much better than being trapped in a business you're too tired to run effectively. Now, I haven't sold Berkshire, obviously, but that's because I love what I do. I'm not looking to retire. But if I wanted to step back, I'd make sure there was a clear succession plan, clear leadership, and I'd transition out. Because holding on too long, that hurts everyone. So if you own a business and retirement is on the horizon, start planning now. Talk to business brokers, get valuations, understand your options, and when the time is right, let go. Now let me pull this all together. These 5 things, the big house, extra cars, vacation homes, concentrated stock positions, your business, they all have something in common. They tie up capital, they create expenses, they require attention and maintenance. And in retirement, you want the opposite. You want liquid assets, you want passive income, you want simplicity. See, the goal of retirement isn't to have the most stuff, it's to have the most freedom. Freedom to do what you want, go where you want, spend time with who you want. And stuff, all this stuff, it weighs you down. Every extra house, every extra car, every complicated investment, that's something you have to manage, something you have to worry about. But if you sell these things, if you convert them into simple income-producing investments, suddenly your life gets easier, your expenses go down, your income goes up. And you can actually enjoy retirement instead of spending all your time and money maintaining things you don't really need. Let me give you an example. I know a couple, they were both in their early 60s. They had a big house worth about $600,000. They had 3 cars, a vacation condo, and the husband owned a small business. On paper, they were worth over $2 million, but they were stressed, couldn't afford to retire. Why? Because all their wealth was tied up in stuff, and that stuff was expensive to maintain. So I talked to them, and I said, look, you need to simplify. They sold the big house, bought a nice condo for $300,000, freed up $300,000. They sold 2 of their cars, freed up another $50,000. They sold the vacation condo for $250,000, and the husband sold his business for $600,000. Suddenly, they had over $1.2 million in liquid investable assets that they didn't have before. They invested it. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that's nearly $50,000 per year in income. Plus, their ongoing expenses dropped by about $30,000 per year because they weren't maintaining all that stuff anymore. So their financial situation improved by almost $80,000 per year. And they retired happily, comfortably. All because they were willing to let go. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Warren, selling means I have to pay capital gains taxes. Yes, maybe, depending on what you're selling and how much gain there is. But here's what I want you to understand. Paying taxes on gains, that's not a bad thing. It means you made money. It means the asset appreciated. And yes, you'll pay maybe 15% or 20% in capital gains taxes. But think about what you're getting: liquidity, simplicity, reduced expenses. Don't let the tax tail wag the investment dog. I've seen people hold on to things they should sell just because they don't want to pay taxes. And you know what? They end up worse off. Because the thing they're holding, it's costing them money every year, or it's risky, or it's dropped in value. And they would have been better off just paying the taxes and moving on. So don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Let me talk about something else that's important: timing. When should you sell these things? The answer is before you retire, not after. See, if you wait until after you retire to sell, you might be in a hurry. you might need the money immediately. And when you're in a hurry, you don't get good prices. But if you plan ahead, if you start selling these things a year or two before retirement, you can take your time. You can get good offers. You can negotiate. Plus, selling things takes time. Houses take months to sell. Businesses can take a year or more. So start early. Don't wait until the last minute. Now let me address one more thing. What do you do with the money once you sell? Because this is critical. If you sell all these things and then you just spend the money, you've accomplished nothing. The goal is to convert stuff into income-producing assets. So when you sell your big house and downsize, that freed-up capital goes into investments. Index funds, dividend stocks, bonds, whatever your retirement portfolio strategy is. Same with the vacation home, the cars, the business, all of it. You're not selling to blow the money on a world cruise. Though, maybe a small cruise is fine. But most of that money, it needs to go to work for you, generating income, growing over time. That's how you turn stuff into freedom. So let me tell you something I've observed over the years. The happiest retirees, they're not the ones with the most stuff. They're the ones with the most flexibility, the most cash flow, the most freedom. They can pick up and travel for a month without worrying about who's watching the vacation house. They're not stressed about property taxes or maintenance costs. They're not tied down by obligations and possessions. They're light. They're free. And that's what retirement should be. You spent 40 years accumulating. Now it's time to simplify. Sell the excess, convert it to income, and enjoy your freedom. Now, I'm not saying sell everything you own and live like a monk. I'm not saying you can't have nice things or enjoy your money, but be intentional, be strategic. Ask yourself, does this thing add to my life, or does it complicate my life? Does it bring me joy, or is it just something I'm holding on to out of habit or obligation? And if it's the latter, sell it. Use that money for things that actually improve your retirement. Travel, hobbies, time with family, whatever matters to you. Well, I think I've made my point. 5 things to sell before you retire. Your house, downsize. Your extra cars, keep 1 or 2, sell the rest. Your vacation home, convert it to liquid assets. Concentrated stock positions, diversify. Your business, sell or transition out. These moves, they could free up hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. Money that can be invested, money that can generate income, money that can make your retirement comfortable instead of stressful. And beyond the money, you'll simplify your life. Less to maintain, less to worry about, more freedom. That's the real wealth in retirement, not how much you have, but how free you are. You know, I've been fortunate in my life. I've accumulated a lot of wealth, but I've never let it weigh me down. I've never let possessions complicate my life. I live simply. Same house since 1958. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. And that simplicity, it's given me freedom. Freedom to focus on what I love, what matters. That's what I want for you in retirement too. So don't be afraid to let go. Don't hold on to things just because you've always had them. Be willing to sell, to simplify, to lighten your load. Your retirement self will thank you. Well, thank you for listening today. I hope this gives you something to think about, something to plan for, because these decisions, they can make a huge difference in your retirement. The difference between comfortable and stressed, between freedom and burden. So start thinking now, make a plan, and when the time comes, be willing to let go. It's not about having less, it's about having what matters. And in retirement, what matters most is freedom. Good luck out there. And remember, the best things in retirement aren't things at all. They're experiences, relationships, time. Sell the stuff, keep what matters. Thank you.